replace the vinyl windows in 39 with vinyl windows, we wouldn't be destroying the fabric of the neighborhood. I would mention that 39 Tenbrook is one of 4 properties that we own as Dove Street Development. All of them are in historic districts because we haven't bought any historic houses, and we make a modest profit, but that's not really the reason I'm in it. 3 of the 4 of us are members of Historic Albany Foundation. I was on the board for 6 years. Charlie is currently vice president. I was a member. That's just to give you some background. We're not hack and slash renovators here. We would like to do the best we can, which takes us to the next picture. Just to show you that when we have original 6/6 wood double hung sash windows, we have no qualms about rebuilding them from scratch. And this is in another one of our buildings. And the middle picture is as we got it, and the right picture is in the process of restoring it. And the left picture is the window back installed. That's just to establish that if we had the raw material to replace the windows at 39 Tenbrook with nice old double hung wooden sash windows, we would, but we don't have that. What we've got, and that's what's shown in the next picture. Yes, is vinyl windows, which are in an advanced state of failing. The vinyl windows that are there, the person from whom we bought this, Myra, was an urban pioneer. And when she moved in the 70s, she didn't have a lot of money, and she did the best she could. And she installed vinyl windows. I would gather from our retrospective examination of the windows that she must have put them in serially as money became available, because they don't all match. But she did the best she could. It's just that they're failing. And the picture on the right, the picture on the left is the outside, which I couldn't get high enough up to show you the failure in that window. But on the right, you can see the black area on top is the area between the sash and the frame and the jamb, actually. And it's stuffed with the black material, which is insulation. All of the windows are in terrible shape. Structurally, the balances are shot, so you can't open and close them unless one of our tenants, who happens to be an Army recruiter, who's very large and very strong. And they have gaps of between 1/2 inch, sometimes even 3/4 inch and 1/4 inch all around them, where the cold air leaks in the winter. And that's what prompted us to exchange this window replacement project for our originally intended sprucing up the front of the building project. We have 3 very good tenants in this building. One of them came to us and said, "We love the apartment, the rent's good, but we cannot afford the heat, and we're going to have to move out at the end of our lease." And so we said, "Okay, we've got to get new windows." So we started back in May trying to get new windows. And everybody we talked to, with one exception, as soon as we told them, so I called various vendors. I discovered, for example, that Renewal by Anderson doesn't carry Anderson 400 series windows. And as soon as I told them I wanted them for historic districts, they said, "Nope, we don't do historic districts." Window World said the same thing. We spent months trying to find somebody who would actually put in windows. We found that finally that Comfort Windows would do the job. They would do it at a price we can afford, but they're vinyl windows. So that's why we're here before you now. Just to finish off, the approvable windows apparently are the Anderson 400 series, which are something they call Fibrex. That's on the right. They call it Fibrex. It's a wood composite with vinyl, and then it's a vinyl coating on the outside. And then the picture on the left is the comfort windows. The only difference between the two is that the comfort windows are solid vinyl, and the approvable Anderson 400 series are inside the vinyl coating, or this material called Fibrex. The Anderson window that's illustrated also, of course, has the interior lattice that makes it look like 6/6. So anyway, that's basically it. My understanding of the purpose of a variance is to provide relief from the rigid application of a rule in cases where the rigid application serves no purpose or would result in more harm than good. And we believe this is such a case.
Well, certainly the preference that we've exercised with a window replacement, and I recognize that you're doing a replacement of a non-original window, but that certainly, you know, a wood or wood clad or a clad wood window is what's approvable, and we have approved the Anderson Fibrex on a few occasions. And that has gone into the list of being an approvable or an acceptable window for this you know, type of application. We're certainly sympathetic to your plight, but have you received quotes on any of the optional wood replacement windows or wood composite replacement windows?
We have tried. It's been 4 weeks now since, so this has been a long process, and it didn't get to the point of my discovering there were other approvable windows until about a month ago, and I immediately tried to find people who would provide the other approvable windows. The one I did finally get hold of, who said he would do it, is a fellow by the name of Anthony Cerrone, who installs the Anderson windows. He has been unable to get back to me with a quote for 4 weeks. And we had hoped to do this in October. Now we're kind of cold. That's the only one who's actually come back to us, other than Comfort. That's the only one who's come back to us with the quote.
Well, I know it has been difficult during this pandemic of, you know, getting people to do work sometimes, or having their staff fully mobilized to do work. So, yeah, I understand the difficulties. It is a very prominent location, although you do have a building with the top floor had been truncated off of it, and it's now has a lot of vegetation growing within it. But, you know, all that said, you know, it's a handsome building and in a prominent location, and certainly would benefit from a window replacement. I'm assuming all the windows in the building are vinyl, as you say.
No, as I said, the owner from whom we bought it, I think, must have done it, as I say, serially as funds became available. So some of the windows are all solid vinyl. Some are wood with a vinyl exterior, and some, I think you can probably see them. The two on this picture, if you're looking at the picture, on the two on the right side of the second floor are actually wood. Bad shaped wood, but they're wood. The problem is that the tracks that the sashes go in, the jamb, are no better than the windows that are all vinyl below them. And in those cases, they have the same problem as the vinyl windows below them. It's just the sashes happen to be made out of wood.
So I have a question. It's mid plus December, and I would assume that any window is a good 6-8 weeks out by order. That's what they typically are. And so the replacement, if you had the windows in hand, would be in February-ish, which you may or may not decide to do because it's not a great time to open the building up. And I guess I'm concerned, we don't typically approve vinyl windows. And we try hard to restore windows. You don't have them to restore. We try hard to use materials that we think are more appropriate and durable. And to approve a vinyl window replacement project, which will be a precedent that we will hear over and over and over again because of issues around timing, feels a little problematic for me. You didn't, and I understand, I mean, I'm in the business too. I understand the difficulties of getting work done this year. I certainly do, and getting materials. But we didn't hear anything about the Pella windows or the Marvin windows. And it's kind of interesting because it sounds like you've gone first to the shops that are a single place to provide and install the windows versus identifying the windows that you want and then having a contractor install those. And that person, of course, would have much more flexibility as to the type of window that they wouldn't they'd install any kind of window. So it feels like the process has been a little bit incomplete, and I'm uncomfortable with the idea of, because of this timing crunch, to approve a material that typically we wouldn't approve, especially because it's pretty likely going to be quite a while before the windows get installed, and you ended up going through the winter rather with drafty windows. So actually, in kind of a total aside, if it's 6-8 weeks anyway, I would think that there are some relatively inexpensive kind of interior, some of the plastic materials that you can install as a temporary interior, either on a frame or something else, to just improve the comfort for however long it is till you get your windows in.
Yeah, we have, Charlie can address that because he was there earlier in the week doing exactly that. Yeah, we can put the plastic in there. As you can well imagine, if we're your home, it's not something that the tenants look forward to. It's disruptive, and once you put them up, they're there until they're taken down. And when you take them down, the little plastic sticky tape takes the paint off the wall as it comes down. Yes, it can be done. We can keep them from freezing to death this winter, but it's not a solution.
Have you considered storm windows, exterior storm windows? Because we have had those in historic districts, and you can get them powder coated to match the paint color, and you might be able to get those more quickly. They're certainly less expensive than replacement windows, and they could be a really good stopgap measure to add some, reduce the airflow into the building, and are probably a good thing to have even if you get replacement windows of whatever sort, whether they're wood or not, because it helps, be a different air barrier. We all know these replacement windows don't necessarily last all that long, and getting some good exterior storms could be really helpful.
Erin, are you talking about interior storms?
No, I'm talking about just exterior storms.
Exterior storms.
Yeah, you can do exterior storms, and they'd be cheaper. And I don't know that the HRC has approved them when I've been on the commission, but the HRC historically has approved them if they're appropriate. There's nothing wrong with exterior storm windows.
They're generally an administrative approval.
Yeah.
They're considered a reversible
feature.
They don't alter an original feature. We're not dealing with original features here in this case, but that is a viable alternative.
And you can get aluminum. I'm not suggesting wooden that you have to hang and take down, you know, powder coated aluminum triple tracks. And then that also helps with, you know, your tenants having the ability to have screens. I don't know if the windows you're getting come with screens, but that's a big issue. Not all replacement windows have screens. So.
Yeah, those are certainly possibilities. And to be perfectly honest with you, we haven't considered them because we thought the optimal solution would be to replace the defective windows, which would be openable in the summer and closable in the winter. But we haven't. Eventually, that's going to have to be done. I mean, even if we put up storm windows to solve the immediate problem of cold air coming in, we still are faced with the fact that we have 8 windows that are all pieces of crap.
Right. I guess my suggestion was that it could buy you some time, to Marilyn's point.
Well, yeah, we can buy time with the plastic over the inside at a lot less cost than the exterior storm windows. But what we'd really like to do is, you know, solve the problem.
The thing I noticed here is that you did mention that there was somebody who you've been waiting to hear from, and I don't know whether it's on their end or their supplier's end, that you haven't been able to.
From the supplier's end, they could never know about these things.
Yeah, for 4 weeks. No matter what we approved, if you were ready to go tomorrow, you wouldn't do it because you have to order the windows and you have to pick a season where the place where people don't get pneumonia while you're replacing windows, which somebody mentioned February. My guess it would be more like March or April. And if you're already covered with the less than attractive plastic to get you through the winter, my guess is that this isn't going to happen under any circumstances until April.
I think you're right. I don't think at this point there's much hope of getting it before spring.
Yeah, and I don't think we have a philosophical difference here. I think you know what you'd like to do. Your problem is you can't find somebody who's willing to do it. But realistically, I don't think anybody's going to do anything until April, when it's not as icy cold as it is in the winter. It's a very, very nice building. It's a Greek revival building that they, I think, gussied up the top of it with the very attractive and elaborate woodwork up there. But you can see the simplicity of the windows or of the lintels actually makes the window even more important to look at, because so many times you'll see something a little later Victorian that has an elaborate lintel over, and your eye immediately goes to it. With this piece of architecture, your eye is going to go on the 6/6 window. It's going to stand out even more prominently than one that had a more elaborate sill and lintel. I think it's well worth the effort to keep looking and find out where an appropriate window there, as we've already approved. I think it's worth it. And I think it's going to be extremely significant end product of the building. If you try longer, I don't think you're going to be able to do it until the spring. Get the appropriate window. It's going to be more important than ever because of that. Windows that they have such a plain framing, nothing to the left and right, only on the top and bottom. And I think getting the proper windows is a big difference
everybody hearing static?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
kind of a drumming noise.
now it's a little bit more. I will say that what it's starting to feel like, and this is kind of perhaps Philip, relevant to you or just all, as we hear about how difficult it is. Each, and Chris certainly is the one that's better to speak to this, but the contractors that I've been speaking with lately, I think it was a very busy year. It was a very intense year. And the ones that I'm speaking with some projects, they're starting to ease up on their work. They're interested in looking at new projects. So my sense from my own practice is that we will see, come spring, come late winter, spring, more of a return to the availability of contractors and materials. It's just anecdotal from my own experience, but it's been a tough year for sure.
May I ask, well, we're looking at the structure. Was this originally built to be a 3-family building?
I'm virtually certain it was not. It doesn't, the layout doesn't appear that it was built as anything other than a single family.
Interesting. Usually when it's a single family, the windows are slightly smaller as you go up higher. And the front parlor tends to be a little higher or a little lower, depending on your point of view. And then as you keep going up, it tends to be a little bit shorter.
If this was built as an apartment building, they intended for the tenants on the second and third floor to be very, very slender people. Because the hallway is just barely wide enough to get through to get to the second and third floor.
It was probably much more generous as a single family residence.
Yeah.
I think another consideration, I did notice in the comfort proposal that their estimated lead time was 10 to 12 weeks after placing an order and measuring. So, I think what we've discussed is there is a delay or a time that this would likely happen closer to early spring than it would happen right now, which is unfortunate for the tenants. But I think another consideration is really the life cycle of a window replacement. And vinyl just does not have the best longevity reputation out there. And it can prove to be a more expensive window in the long run because in 30 years, it's subject to replacement. I'm sure there have been improvements in the vinyl windows, but you're seeing vinyl windows that were installed, 50 years ago, early 70s, correct. And, they've totally, exhausted their life. And a good wood window, even modern wood windows that have, preservative treatment are, have a much longer lifespan. So I think that's another consideration in making this kind of a selection.
Yeah, one of our considerations in making this selection was that our revenue from this, we're not in this to make lots of money, but our revenue from this building in 2020 was just about $7,000. So we're trying to keep our expenses, even though a wooden window would last more than the 30 years. The rent roll here is a constraint on what we can afford to spend on the windows.
Understood. And a mechanism that we have used in the past is for a hardship application or to demonstrate the balance sheet on the property, would force a decision one way or the other. But certainly
If we
would
could-
encourage
yeah.
a little more research and finding, a very competitive replacement that would not necessarily involve vinyl.
Well, if we could find somebody who'd give us a quote on an approvable window that was within our budget, we'd be delighted to do it.
You spoken with Historic Albany relative to Kara, to who the contractors that she's aware of that are doing work?
I haven't. Have you, Charlie?
No, I haven't either.
She's got a pretty good list, so that might be a good start. And John, just a comment on the hardship. The hardship is not something that we deal with. So that's a separate process, right?
Right.
Yeah, for the hardship, Marilyn, it would have to be denied by you
Right,
all.
exactly. I
And
just wanted.
they have
to
to-
know that.
Yeah, to submit a new application under the hardship modification process.
How many tenants are there in the building now?
There are, see,
Okay, go ahead, Charlie.
the first floor, that's Kate and Derek, one couple. The second floor is another couple, Davia and her boyfriend. And the third floor is Rebecca and Vincent.
3.
Yep.
And that's all it has is the 3, right? One per
Yep,
floor.
correct.
Okay.
One bedroom, one bathroom.
Yep.
And also with our thing has always been, especially when I first got into this, Phil kind of enlightened me with it. It's always been preservation over profit. And we always try to incorporate, when we can, parts from the historic parts warehouse. Actually, last year, Phil did the project at 79 Tenbrook Street when he restored 2 exterior doors. And they were massive. I think, how tall were they, Phil? 8 feet or something?
They're 9-foot doors and with another 3-foot transom.
Right.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like what Phil said, when we have the raw materials, when we can work with something, we'll do it.
Would it make sense to table this pending, your ability to get some additional information?
As a practical matter, it could be tabled for a short while, sure. We'd want to get our approval in time to engage the contractor to do the work so that the work could be done as soon as possible in the spring. So I wouldn't want to table it for a great long time, but certainly we could table it. Maybe in another month or so, I could beat somebody out of the woodwork with another estimate.
I wasn't suggesting an indefinite tabling. I think, time is of the essence for you and your tenants.
Fortunately or unfortunately, you've already bit the bullet by using plastic to keep the tenants reasonably comfortable during the winter. So that's already happened or about to happen.
Yeah, that's why I think we could, we, as you say, we're not going to do this in February. So if it were tabled for a reasonably short period, yeah, that wouldn't greatly affect our ability to move on the project.
Well, we meet every, first and third Wednesday of the month, so we're always available. I mean, if you're willing to spend the next 4 weeks looking for alternatives, we certainly could entertain the notion of tabling.
Well, it's an interesting hobby, chasing contractors. I'll do it for another month.
It is an interesting hobby, I know. Are there any other thoughts from my fellow commissioners?
Only to, and Aaron, maybe you can state, what are the typical alternate materials that we have commonly, approved? So we don't send these folks out on a goose chase.
In her defense, Aaron sent me that list.
I did send Phil a list, and on it, it's the Anderson 400 series, which Phil has stated is the Vibrex, and then their architectural series and their E series, and the Pella 450, which is the aluminum clad window, the Marvin Ultimate level, which is also an aluminum clad wood window. And they're all on the list. There are some locations where you can find those windows available in the Albany area.
Great.
Well, if that's the direction we would like to go, I would entertain a motion.
So move. We table the issue until our next meeting at some point within the next 4 months, if practical. Or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't mind, I would appreciate it being tabled for at least a month because it takes me so long to chase these guys.
Yeah, I think
Add that this is being denied as proposed.
4 to 6 weeks is certainly reasonable.
Okay, we have a motion to defer and a motion to deny.
Well, I think the motion is to defer. That's the one that was put forward.
Did you hear a motion to deny, Aaron?
Yeah, I brought that up. As proposed, is it the owner's interest to search out a more historically appropriate window? We tabling this for no reason, or is there, the intent is to seek out a vendor and contractor for a more historical appropriate window?
My understanding is that is the intent by tabling it, rather than an outright denial at this point.
Okay.
I guess I have a kind of a procedural question on that because we're saying we're not approving it as it's presented. So he would have to come back with either different materials or new information, which would, I would imagine, be a hardship claim.
Well, no, so you can defer it. He can come back with new information with an appropriate window for you to all to review, or he could come back with the same proposal, at which time you could either deny it or approve it. Until we're just deferring the application for further information at this time.
So far, we don't have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Aaron, do we have anyone from the public?
We do not.
Okay. I would call the motion to a vote then. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. We wish you all the luck in the world to go forth and conquer and find a window that we'll all be happy with.
Okay. Awesome. I hope to see you next month.
All right.
Well, we hope you have good luck.
Yes.
And if Erin can help in any way, please reach out to her.
Phil, I will, for some of those locations that are on the list, I will send you out direct contact for some of the vendors that we've worked with in the past.
And I'm sure Historic Albany will be helpful if they can be.
Okay. Now we can move on to the public meeting portion of the evening. And that is 255, 271 Clinton Avenue in the Clinton Avenue, North Pearl, Clinton Square Historic District. And this is a request by the Planning Department to be the lead agency in the seeker process. And this is to construct a surface parking lot on this property. Erin?
Can I just, I don't know, Erin Glennon, do I need to, sorry for the dog. Do I need to recuse myself because of the board conflict for this issue?
You don't, because it's just an agreement, and it won't be coming before the HRC unless there's archaeological resources at the site. So you don't have to confuse yourself.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, and that was one thing I did notice in the short form that they submitted, that there is the potential of archaeological resources on the site, as well as it was a site where hazardous material remediation was performed.
Yeah, so Home Leasing is proposing a 38 spot parking lot that goes is partially in the vacant properties that they currently have their construction trailers on, and then behind the row houses along Clinton Avenue. And part of this, and most of what's being reviewed by the planning, well, part of the requirement for a parking lot is landscaping. And it would only come before HRC if it is determined through their archaeological phase 1A and B if required, if there's any significant resources at this site. So this is just kind of the start for the seeker review, and it has to go before planning board, who's requesting to be lead agency, as well as the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Erin, I have a question. The last meeting we had, we spent quite a bit of time talking about some fencing at a vacant lot or adjacent to one of our projects, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mhm.
And so why is the potential to discuss something like that not with this project? Why did you say that we wouldn't see it?
Generally fencing is handled as administrative. If it is part of the discussion that for 191 North Pearl Street was as part of the overall new construction. But fencing under the historic resource overlay guidelines has always been administrative, as well as plantings. I believe here they're proposing an ornamental wrought iron fence. I can look at the detail further to see what they are proposing, but generally that's handled in the planning office.
Would they have the right to put a chain link fence across the front of it?
We do not allow, they're not using chain link fencing. Chain link fencing is not allowed along street frontages
Okay,
anywhere within the city of Albany, unless it's an industrial zoned parcel.
Mhm.
We do not allow, if it previously existing, unless they go to alter it or take it down, they have to go back with something appropriate. But for new installations along street frontages, there's no chain link fence allowed.
Good to know.
And for front property lines, it has to be 4 feet in height with 60% opacity for front property lines or front yard areas.
Where are some examples of ones that you all have approved administratively that are within the district?
I will have to look. I know there.
Get a sense of what what's been done administratively and what's been considered to be acceptable.
I'll pull some of those for you, Marilyn.
Yeah.
I know that there's been a couple within Center Square. Center Square, yeah, I'll pull some because I know that there's been a couple. We don't get too many for front yard areas, but
Right. Right.
we don't see many parking lot requests either. So I will pull those and send those along to you.
Oh, thank you. That'd be good to see.
You said that it needs to be 50% opaque,
60.
60.
Yeah.
60. So it may likely involve some masonry piers or something to get that percentage where it needs to be.
Right.
Otherwise, they do a stockade fence and it looks like hell. But,
Right.
all right, if when you receive that information, you can share that with the commission, that would be appreciated.
Yes, I will do that.
I guess, do we need to make a motion and approve designation of the planning board as the lead
Yeah.
agency?
Yep. So just a motion to agree that planning board will act as lead agency.
Okay, all right. I entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Chris. All right, any members of the public venturing to comment on this?
No one is
All
there.
All right, I will call it to a vote then. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, the motion is carried and the planning board and board of zoning appeals gets to chew on this one.
That's quite opaque, 60%.
It is. Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
really wide fat pickets for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either that or very robust ornamental iron fence with a lot of solid.
Or masonry base and, right, could
Yeah.
do it with a masonry base and then pickets on top.
Or base with piers and then segments of fence. I mean, there are lots of ways of dealing with it. But we look forward to receiving whatever sketches they offer. So we can get out our measuring devices and determine if they met the 60% or not. Okay.
Do you think our site visit will happen tomorrow at
I-
52 North Pearl?
You got a
Um,
shovel?
Yeah. And a sled. David Toboggan.
I got a sled. Yeah, I got all three, shovel and sled.
I was telling John at the beginning of the meeting when he first jumped on, depending on the weather for tomorrow and whether we're under 20 inches of snow or not, I'm going to most likely cancel tomorrow afternoon and probably reschedule it for after the new year. So once everything quiets down and
I'll just point out right now, the snow is completely encircling Albany, but not in Albany.
not yet.
That's momentary.
Yeah.
I'm a consistent snowstorm skeptic.
Yeah,
They
well,
always overblow it.
I
Yeah.
know.
So
Should we get a snow day for something like this? Since they're all remote?
There's
No
a
snow days.
that is a downside of remote work is
no more snow days.
no
I know.
more
No snow days. Nope.
That's a bummer.
That
Um,
is.
Unless the
Tomorrow
internet
is-
goes out or, power goes out, but
Tomorrow is Father Young's funeral at the cathedral.
Mm.
Oh,
I imagine it will accommodate a fairly large number of people because the cathedral holds 1,200 people. So, but it's not going to be a great time for that activity going on.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if we don't meet again before the holidays, wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Back to you.
And
You
also,
as well.
well, we're still in that season too. Started a little earlier than usual.
happy last couple nights of Hanukkah.
That's right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And be safe.
And be safe.
And be
Very
safe.
safe.
Yeah. Bye, y'all.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
We get a motion-
Next year.
Nope, nope.
Yes.
See you next year. Nice.
No.
We get a motion to adjourn? No?
Yeah.
So move.
Second.
Second.
All right, everybody turn off their machines.
right.
We're done.
You got to vote aye. Okay.
Thank you all.
Everyone. All right.
This is the way to do it.
Sayonara to 2020.
Whew. Last. Here's to 2021.
Yeah. 2020, a year like no other.
Whew, that is for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Aaron, thank you.
You're welcome. And
Hopefully they can come up with some reasonable alternative for their windows.
I hope so. I called them because I've worked with Phil on a couple of his other projects. I reviewed 79 Tenbrook, and I know that they own a number of different properties.